All right, let's now welcome back Nixon Katembo. He is on Skype and he's an African affairs analyst to give us an update on the developments coming out of Guinea, wherein President Alpha Conde is now seeking a third term in office. Now, Nixon, welcome back.
Thank you for having me back.
Yeah, you were just taking us through what the Constitution advances in terms of the presidential term limits, because there's various competing schools of thought in Guinea, where on the one hand, critics say that the draft constitution extends the presidential term limits, to 6 years and essentially removes the two-term limits. And on the other hand, some proponents of this and other critics say that the presidents are limited to only 2 terms in office. So what does the Constitution provide in this regard?
In this regard, to be quite frank, the Constitution of Guinea provides for 2-term limit, of which 5 years. However, the clause in which extend the 6-year term limit was the one actually that led to the referendum, because the government in power felt that maybe they have not done enough in terms of what they were planning for their mandate. But unfortunately, this brought about much contestation within the political class in Guinea, leading to the opposition boycotting that referendum. And the 6-year term is actually an extension that emanates from the referendum that were brought about by Conde to try to maneuver the constitution and remain in power. And clearly there have been some boycotts, and the protests are indicative of those contestations and actually those rejections of the current political class in Guinea, especially led by Conde.
And what is the possibility of holding elections on free and fair terms when the electoral register, as it were, is very difficult to trust?
Well, those has been the contestations that are coming from the opposition. The opposition is saying that the Electoral Commission itself is not fair, it's biased towards the president. So it's really difficult at this point in time to point that the elections will be free and fair, especially if you look at the trajectory of the past 1 year leading up to these elections. So one would say that it's too early to tell whether these elections will be free and fair. Of course, given the turnout of the elections today, it will determine who actually wins the elections. But of course, those political contestations have shown that really the people are no longer interested or trust the current government. And this is not isolated to Guinea itself. We saw it happening elsewhere on the continent. The case in point is the Democratic Republic of Congo, where now today we learn that those who were said to have won the elections were not actually the one who won the elections. So it's really a problem on our continent where incumbents have always used their power of incumbency to circumvent the electoral processes and making sure that they remain in power. And Guinea is following this through the same path.
I mean, the African Union has already cancelled a delegation or an observer mission to Guinea, citing, controversies in the way that the elections are handled. And the European Union, on the other hand, saying that, it is casting serious doubt in the poll's credibility. And now the big question then, Nixon, is where in the world is this contentious 2.5 million voters come from? And the increase in the names in that particular electoral roll, happens in the region where Alpha Conde has a major support. So the fact that the credibility of the election has been cast in doubt, will it really matter for President Alpha Conde?
The credibility of the elections, I think, is a very important and a key factor in allowing the elections to be said to be free and fair. And if you talk about the added extra 2.5 million voters in areas where Alpha Conde is popular, this comes from the fact that these elections have taken even an ethnic aspect where Selou Diallo is from the Pearl community, which is much of the majority population in that country. So one would understand that in trying to match the popularity of the opposition leader, that maybe the incumbents saw it upon themselves to manipulate the electoral voters so that they can match the populations that supports the opposition leader. And this is where actually the contestation comes from. But because
all right, yeah, we seem to have problems connecting to Nixon Katembo. The line is not the best there, but I think we should just wrap the interview, and we really thank Nixon Katembo for his valuable insight and analysis on this matter and the developments coming out of Guinea. On to other news now. Sudan